Did you know hummingbirds need to eat every 12 to 15 minutes? They burn through tons of energy to power their fast and active lifestyles. In fact, they clock in at an average of 70 wing beats per second. Hummingbirds snack on nectar, of course, but they also snack on small insects and spiders. Bet you didn't know that. Now help these hummingbirds out by putting out a quick bite for them to eat. Nectar is a great food item for hummingbirds because it gives them a quick means of turning sugars into energy that can then be used to power their incredibly strong flight muscles. Now, keep in mind, this only works for hummingbirds because of how much exercise they do on a minute-by-minute basis. Their bodies have a special tool or adaptation for fast-tracking the processing of sugars into energy that can be used right away. Making nectar for hummingbirds is super duper easy. And here's how you do it. First, we're going to fetch our supplies. So all you're going to need is refined table sugar. The whiter the sugar, the better, and we'll explain why in a little bit. You're going to need a bowl or some sort of container for mixing. I have a large mason jar here with me, a measuring cup, and some means for boiling the water that you're going to have. I'm using a pot, but if you have a kettle, that's perfectly fine too. Then you're going to measure a ratio of 1 part sugar to 3 parts water. In my case, I'm just going to make 3 cups of nectar, so I'm going to follow that exact ratio. So I've already pre-measured some sugar in 1 cup, and I've already pre-boiled 3 cups of water. Now, why are we boiling the water? It helps that sugar to dissolve much more readily into the nectar that you're creating. So I'm just going to go ahead, and once I have my water boiled, and once I have my sugar ready to go, I'm just going to add it to my mason jar and start mixing. So I'll set my measuring cup aside, and we're just going to go ahead and mix the nectar together. And you can see as soon as I pour that water in there, it really helps to start dissolving the sugar. And then I'm just going to mix it really well. Now, once you feel like you've gotten your sugar to dissolve pretty well in your mason jar or your mixing bowl, you're just going to set that aside and let it cool back to room temperature. If you're in a rush, you can put it in the freezer for a bit just to kind of bring the temperature back down. You don't want it to be boiling hot when you put it in your hummingbird feeder, mainly so that you don't burn yourself, but also so you don't burn the hummingbird if they come right away. And that's it. Once your nectar is ready, there are some things that you want to do to make sure that your hummingbird visitors don't get sick or you don't put them in danger. So we're going to talk about that now. First off, there is some maintenance for hummingbird feeders to keep in mind. And that is to make sure that you clean your feeder regularly. The reason why is that the nectar can kind of grow mold pretty quickly, so you don't want that to make your hummingbird sick. The recommended practice is to change your hummingbird feeder every 2 to 3 days. If you're going through a hot spell, especially in the summer, there's a couple of days where we might get some pretty high temperatures. We would recommend changing that every day. Now, fortunately, it's pretty easy to change out the water. You just follow the recipe again that we just showed, but also just rinse it out with hot water and distilled vinegar. You don't want to use soaps because that can make the hummingbird sick. So why use refined sugar and not any other type of sugar? The reason being is that refined table sugar is processed. Processing means that they've taken out trace amounts of molasses from the sugar. For us humans, molasses is great because it has iron, which is healthy for us, but for hummingbirds, that is very toxic. So the more guarantee that you can have that there aren't trace amounts of molasses in the sugar, the better for the hummingbirds that you're trying to feed. We also don't recommend using powdered sugar because it has starch in it. So really just stick to basic table sugar. The next recommendation is a bit of a sensitive one because I know we all love our pets. But if you have a cat and you're considering putting up hummingbird feeders or any other type of feeder, consider whether or not your cat is an indoor cat or an outdoor cat. If you have an outdoor cat, we don't recommend putting up feeders just because that might become an unsafe environment for the birds visiting your yard. However, if your cat must go outside and you believe you can adopt this practice, we recommend supervised outside time with your cat just to make sure that your cat isn't going to mess with those birds that are coming into the feeder. Thank you for giving a helping hand to hungry hummingbirds in your backyard. We hope that you enjoy your hummingbird viewing, and let us know if you see one by visiting the Project Broadtail webpage. Project Broadtail is an effort to find hummingbirds in Utah. The more that we know about hummingbirds and where they visit, the better we can protect them. Learn more at the link below.